Yo, what's up, Grind Gang? How you living, baby? Welcome to the Daily Grind here with your boy Rodtheplanter. And today I was continuing a conversation that we had started last time about time perception. You know, we were going to talk about other cool ways to use your brain. And so in this episode, we talked about pattern recognition, your brain's ability to find patterns out in the world, to sometimes get stuck in patterns that you don't want to be in. And so just how do we navigate through that, and how do we use our brain's ability to recognize and adopt patterns? All right, I love you so much, baby. I hope you tune into the rest of this little series. And as always, I just appreciate you, and I love you so much.
And then my grind game. Hey, I just ran a light, blowing the Maui, going to Cali, catching a flight. Gotta get right, yeah, what? Never miss right. I just be lighting the lime, green, spinach, I got it like Popeye.
So, let's talk about pattern recognition. How your brain has the ability to see and create patterns in the world, right? When you think about how the universe works, you know, I hear a lot of things, and it all seems to run off of one central idea that is like everything is a pattern, right? Everything's some type of rhythm or wave or whatever, but everything seems to move in cycles, right? You see this in the seasons, you see this in crops and the way the plants grow, life and death, time, everything. You see this in everything, right? Everything has a pattern, right? Some type of pattern that it works off of and is built off of. You know, even as we started to learn about science and study the world and stuff, you realize everything breaks down into formulas. Right? If you wanted to create something or do some type of equation, right, to get to a certain answer, there's always an equation behind that. There's a mathematical equation or a formula. Put this and this together and it gets this. You know, and over time we've studied these things and we've learned these things, and really our brain can't help but pick these things out in the world, right? It's kind of how, like I said, we build and how we grow and how we create is by putting these little building blocks together. And so your brain just naturally has this ability to see something and find the patterns in it, right? And then, like I said, once your brain does that, your brain will create patterns for you. So your subconscious does this other cool thing when it identifies a pattern in your lifestyle, right? And so the way you drive. Right now you drive to work or school or somewhere, pick up your kids, but you usually drive somewhere every single day, right? Or a lot of times. And your brain catalogs that, and it recognizes that pattern. It's okay, cool, I see that, we drive from this place to this store consistently, right? And so your brain will use the power of patterns to make that process easier for you, right? As we talk about, your brain is a super fucking computer, but it still has its limitations, not in what its potential is, no limits in potential, but limits in capacity, right? You can only do so many things at once. You can only think about so many things at once. Your brain can only process so much at one specific time. So patterns helps your brain kind of offload some of that responsibility from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind. So when your subconscious recognizes a pattern, it's oh, okay, cool, I see we do this all the time. I'm going to store this as a pattern in your subconscious, so now you don't really have to think about this as much, right? And so when we were just talking about your commute, when I've talked about this plenty of times, your subconscious drives that car for you. You don't really think, even if you're listening to me right now in traffic, you don't really think about driving to the places that you're very familiar with going. Your subconscious has offloaded that for you. It's created a pattern for that. And so now you just kind of know how to do that. You don't have to look at the roads, read the signs, think about it. Your brain's catalog that. So this is an amazing, amazing power, right? And this is happening for you every single day. Your brain is constantly cataloging the things that you're doing, cataloging the things that you're saying, and creating patterns from that, right? And so you see this in people's lifestyle and the way that they live and that they operate. I see people sometimes when they get stuck in a certain pattern. And it's not that they're sad, it's not that they're mad, they're not mean people, they're not whatever. Your relationship isn't falling apart or miserable, you're just stuck in a pattern. And it's hard because you don't recognize that pattern because it gets stored in your subconscious mind, right? And so if you haven't worked with your ability to recognize patterns and use them, it can really turn as a detriment to you. You can start to, like I said, adopt a pattern that you didn't realize was happening. It happens so subtly. You just did something 3-4 times. You felt a certain way 3 or 4 or 5 times. And there's a stimulus and a response that happens from that, One thing I see this all the time, right, is let's talk about depression or anxiety or even weight loss. There's a formula, there's a pattern for all those things. So when people tell me they're like, oh, I have depression, I don't say that they're lying. I believe you, right? But the thing about that is, if you are not doing anything, if you haven't adopted any type of pattern that would help you combat against that depression, then kind of duh, like of course you have depression. So here's my point. If you're in the pattern of feeling sad all the time, right? And that gets engraved in your body and in your subconscious. And now even though you don't have an impulse right now to create sadness in you, that's your habit. That's your pattern. That's what your subconscious thinks. Every morning it's like, well, this is what we do. There's a tape that plays in your mind. And it's like, well, this is how we feel. Even though we'll talk about how this works with the reticular activating system later in the next episode, but you're gonna go find those things out in the world, and your pattern is going to prove your reality for you, right? Just like your subconscious drove that car for you, if you have a pattern of sadness and depression, the way you move your body is of a very low vibration. The way that you express yourself is a very low vibration. Like I said, you don't work out, you don't eat positive, or you eat good foods, you don't ingest positive materials, right? You're always doing things that are negative or have a negative vibration and tone, and then that creates that pattern in your life, and you get stuck on that pattern. There's even something that they identify as like a crazy eight. You hear people get stuck in this crazy eight pattern. And so sometimes when people are really, really sad or really, really depressed, and they're feeling this really low vibration and sucking them down, they want to get out of that, and so they move to something different, a higher vibration, like anger, right? And so you get mad, and you get frustrated, and you go out, and you punch your way up through the world, and you're like, this is fucking bullshit, and then you cause so much, havoc and stress that, you get depressed again, and you go back in that loop. And then people get stuck in that. They don't understand why they're not growing, right? And it's because you're feeling different things, so you feel contrast, you feel like your life is changing, but it's only ever really moving from this sad, depressive state to this, angry, rage state, so that you feel like you have some type of power. And so we have to break these patterns in our life. We have to really do things differently, take a different approach to our life when we want change, or when we want growth, or we want something to be different, right? We can't say, oh, I want to be successful, I want to be, fit. But then in the back, we don't go and look for the patterns that create that reality, because they're there, right? Like if you want to lose weight, I tell people all the time, that's not hard. It's impossible not to know how to lose weight these days. Everybody's got a program. It's in your commercials. It's in everything. Everybody wants you to be fit. Everybody wants to give you some type of knowledge or experience. There's free YouTube channels. There's apps. You name it. So what stops us? Well, we're stuck in the old pattern. So we're used to not going to the gym. We're used to not doing the thing. It's easy to go get the McDonald's because that's our pattern, right? You don't even want it. You've already committed in your mind. You're like, yeah, I want to be fit. But then you still go to the McDonald's and you get the cheeseburger and you're like, man, why I gotta eat this, man? I wanted to get that salad, but I just couldn't. Why? Well, it's a pattern. It's a pattern recognition. You get stuck in these certain patterns. And so what am I saying? Learn to use that weapon for your advantage, right? Don't let it turn against you. Use it for power. Identify this and say, okay, cool, what patterns do I want in my life? And then realize that you can go out and create them. You can see them. If somebody has a life that you want, right, and they're doing something, they're a singer, or they're a dancer, or they're successful in some way, you have the ability to go back and reconstruct their pattern. See what they did. See how they felt. See how they acted. See what kind of steps they took to get to where they are. People are always leaving crumbs behind them of like, this is how I got. Look, what does this show? This is how even if I'm not somewhere tremendous, this is how I got to where I am, right? And I pass that down to some people. And people are constantly doing it. Maybe your parents didn't do it for you. Maybe your parents didn't instill patterns in you of success. But that doesn't mean that you can't go out and find them. You can replicate and model people and things in the world that will produce the result that you're looking for. And your brain will do this with tremendous power. So many people are like, well, I want to start a business, but I don't know how. Go find the pattern. Go look for the formula. There is a formula for everything. It's not going to be about the strategy, right? There's a strategy to accomplish anything. There's a pattern to creating whatever it is. You want to create a shirt? You want to make this shirt? There's a pattern out there. You could just download it from the internet. Sleeveless shirt pattern. And then learn how to sew. And you don't know the pattern of how to sew? Guess what? You know what I mean? So it's not about the strategy, it's not about the patterns. You can go out there and you can find those and instill those, but it all starts with your will and your passion and your energy for life, right? Do you want those things? If you want those things bad enough, right? If you've instilled the desire deep enough in your mind, it's gonna trigger you, right? It has to, for you to now adopt a different pattern, right? You have to adopt a different pattern. You can't just talk about it. You can't just think about it. You have to take that and say, okay, well, what pattern have I been in now to get to where I am here? So what can I change? What all right, I don't get up every single day till 11 o'clock p.m. or 11 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, right? Half my day be gone. I sleep half my day. That's a pattern that now I have to change. Will it be easy? No, of course not. Because your brain has gotten dug deep into that. It wants that. It thinks it's helping you by keeping you in that pattern, right? Because the whole reason it created that pattern in the first place was not to hurt you, but to offload. This is what you wanted. You laid around and binged on Netflix for 3 days, so your brain was like, oh, okay, cool, this is what we're gonna do. I got you, baby. Every day when you come home, it's like, yep, Netflix, with new show. Let's do it, pattern, baby. Boom, and then you really wanna do your homework. You really wanna go over there and make your YouTube videos or whatever, make your song, but have it. You're like, yeah, well, another time. So fight that. You got to break through that habit, instill the new habit. You're like, okay, this is the habits that I've had. These are the patterns that I've been in to get to where I am now. I want to change that. Who else? What other pattern out there can I adopt? Okay, here goes this dude's plan. This dude wake up every day, 5 o'clock in the morning. He meditates, he works out, he eats something healthy, and he goes and approaches his day. Let me try that, And now I'm gonna just try that. Like I said, now I understand it's not easy, but I have to every day I have to instill this new pattern. I do things in my life all the time just to teach my brain things. All the time, like just teach myself. I do things and it's hard, and I'm like, you don't have to do this. Like sometimes when I'm working out, I'm like, dude, I'm so fit. You don't gotta work out. Like you don't got nobody to impress. Why are you doing this? Just to teach my brain, Just to teach my brain to like go hard. Just go hard. I take cold showers. I haven't really noticed any medical benefits or anything from it, but I love that every morning I don't want to take the shower. Like every morning I'm like, oh, I don't want to get in this cold shower. But then every morning well, not every morning. Most mornings I tell myself anyways, I'm like, break it, do it. You have to. Now that you don't want to, you must. And so I do that, and that creates a pattern in my brain that teaches my brain what to do when I'm not around, if that makes sense, right? Like when I'm not consciously present, I want to teach my subconscious healthy habits and things to do without even taking it over. And eventually it changes. So now when I wake up, my whole pattern is different. People are like, man, you be getting it, Rod, you this and that. I don't even realize, it's a pattern. This is what I do. Wake up, meditate, get popping, get happy, into my day, work, grind. I stood for 15 hours yesterday. I didn't even think about it. I was just doing work. I'm in the habit. I can stand all day and night. I'm in the habit of that. I practice those things. Yeah, no, for real, bro. You know what I'm talking about, man. You know what I'm talking about. So there's habits out there, there's patterns out there that you can go out there, you can recognize, you can adopt, and you can put them into your own life, and that'll change everything. People who, any one of these things on this list could change your whole life by itself. I didn't make these up. These are real things. This is real things that your brain is just doing right now, and all I'm saying is just learn how to use it. Just learn how to use it. That's all I did. I used to be a completely different person. All I did was adopt habits of successful people. I went out there and I just studied. I watched these types of, like other people who I looked up to. Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, all those fools. And I just watched. And I learned. They said that I write down things in my journal. Okay, cool, check. Get the goddamn, just do it. Get the damn journal. Write. At first you don't feel like it works. Or you don't want to do it. I don't get it. It don't make no sense. I don't like this. This is hard. Your brain, every time when it has to create a new pattern, it's hard. Why? Because it's just, it's used to that. Pattern recognition, baby. It's out there. Everything has a pattern. Everything has a formula. Everything is easily achievable through this idea of pattern recognition, about using the patterns that build or create the building blocks. Like I said, if you want to get to 2, it's 1 plus 1. There's no secret magic. You just go find out. You want to get to 2? What's the 1 plus 1? How do I put those together, right? You see, all the time, when you learn, when you figure it out, then you can replicate it over and over and over. You can do it easily. Your brain will do it without even thinking, without even trying. when you break the habit though, you know? So we'll talk about it more. We always talking about it, you know, we always talking about these things. We're always talking about these things here on the show, but we'll get more into those, you know, deep into that idea another time about, you know, just your ability to create and understand patterns, man. It's just so powerful, so powerful. And if you've noticed now through both of these, like, these tools are powerful, but they're, if I gave a baby a gun, what's he gonna do? You're gonna shoot yourself. You know what I mean? Like, power is only valuable if you understand how to use it. And so if you don't take the time to cultivate your ability to use these things, like how your brain creates patterns, understanding, like taking a conscious effort to look around and say, you know, what are the patterns of me? What's the patterns in my speech? What do I say all the time? How do I act all the time? When I wake up, what's the first thought that I think every day? You know, think about these things. What patterns are you in? And when you understand that, then you can be effective in the change of that. You know, it's easy. It's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, next time we're gonna talk about the RAS. Another one of my favorites. It's just, I would have talked about it today. It's just I felt like somebody out there was just, you know, like, I don't know, the universe is funny like that. It's like, talk about pattern recognition. Just do it, just pattern. I was like, you sure? But it's all right. It's like pattern recognition. I'm like, all right, cool, pattern recognition it is. But next time, hopefully even like tomorrow, man, like, we'll see. I'm cleaning up my plate right now as far as like projects I'm working on. So consistency, we coming back, baby. We're coming back. See, as soon as I get in a pattern, when you get in a pattern of it, like right now there's resistance to this, but when I get in a pattern of coming back every day at a certain time, then it'll be all right, I love y'all so much. Peace.